I know God is the only judge we have. I've just set the appointment up.
What can I say? I went in, there was no trying to wiggle out of that. I didn't.
I just don't care to.
Case 1. Theodore Dyer, a former police officer, was serving a lengthy sentence for first-degree criminal sexual conduct involving a minor. His crimes had already marked him as one of the most reviled inmates in the prison system. Dyer's criminal past created a tense and hostile environment in prison, especially among inmates with strong moral codes against crimes involving children. Stephen Sanderson, on the other hand, was already serving a life sentence for a 1991 murder. His long tenure in the prison system had shaped him into a hardened inmate, familiar with the unwritten rules and dynamics of prison life. Sanderson's own moral compass, warped by years behind bars, played a pivotal role in the events that unfolded. On October 29, 2014, at the Saginaw Correctional Facility in Michigan, Stephen Sanderson strangled Theodore Dyer to death. According to Sanderson's confession, he was driven to murder after Dyer repeatedly talked about his crimes against children. Enraged and unable to tolerate Dyer's lack of remorse, Sanderson used a cord to strangle him in their shared cell.
He was my bunkie, and I had found out that he was in prison for child molestation, a really bad case. So that night he was trying to justify why he did it, and I just told him to be quiet, and he would have to leave in the morning to find a new cell. But he continued to talk about it and try to justify it, so he was a little bit bigger than me, so I got down and I hit him in his face a few times, and when he fell, I wrapped a cord around his neck and I took his life.
Sanderson openly admitted to the crime, stating that he believed Dyer deserved to die for his actions. His candid confession shocked many as he detailed his motive and the method he used without any apparent remorse.
Since this all happened, it's kind of been, people think I'm some kind of hero, but I'm actually not. I just, did what I thought was best in the time that I was given. I don't know, I've been getting these emails saying that, it's not my position to judge anybody. And I want to make it quite clear that I didn't judge him. I know God is the only judge we have. I've just set the appointment up. So I don't feel bad for what I did, I feel bad for maybe his family or something. But as far as remorse towards him, no.
Following the murder, Sanderson was charged with second-degree murder. During his trial, he reiterated his justification for the killing, emphasizing his disgust with Dyer's crimes. Sanderson pleaded guilty and was sentenced to an additional life term without the possibility of parole. The case sparked a significant amount of debate, with some viewing Sanderson as a vigilante who delivered a form of justice, while others condemned the murder as an example of the brutal realities of prison justice. Case 2. Gerard John Schaefer was born on March 26, 1946 in Wisconsin. His early years were marked by a troubled childhood and disturbing behavior. By his teenage years, Schaefer had developed a fascination with sadomasochism and bondage, often fantasizing about harming women. These fantasies grew more intense over time, eventually dominating his thoughts. Despite these disturbing tendencies, Schaefer pursued a seemingly normal life. He attended Broward Community College and later Florida Atlantic University, where he studied education. Schaefer briefly worked as a teacher, but his career was short-lived due to his inappropriate behavior and poor performance. In 1971, he became a police officer in Wilton Manors, Florida, which would later facilitate his gruesome crimes. Schaefer's double life as a law enforcement officer and a sadistic killer began to unravel in July 1972. While on duty, he abducted two teenage hitchhikers, Nancy Trotter and Pamela Wells, and took them to a remote area where he tied them to trees and threatened to kill them. Fortunately, Schaefer was called away by a radio dispatch, allowing the girls to escape and report him to the authorities. Schaefer was arrested but released on bail pending trial. In the meantime, Schaefer's past crimes began to surface. In April 1973, the decomposed bodies of Susan Place and Georgia Jessup, two teenage girls who had been missing since September 1972, were discovered near Blind Creek. The girls had been tied to a tree, mutilated, and left to decompose. Evidence linking Schaefer to the murders, including personal items belonging to the victims, was found in his home.
When they say that they found all this stuff in my home, they didn't find it in my home. They found it at my mother's home, okay? And I've never seen it.
Schaefer was arrested and charged with the murders of Susan Place and Georgia Jessup. During the trial, witnesses testified about Schaefer's abductions and sadistic behavior. Despite his claims of innocence and various alibis, the overwhelming evidence led to his conviction. On September 27, 1973, Schaefer was found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder and was sentenced to 2 concurrent life terms in prison. While in prison, Schaefer continued to write, producing disturbing stories that hinted at more murders. He was suspected of being responsible for up to 34 murders, though he was only convicted of 2. Schaefer was eventually murdered in prison by a fellow inmate, Vincent Faustino Rivera, on December 3, 1995. Case 3. Carroll Edward Cole was a notorious serial killer and a former war veteran whose life was marked by a series of violent crimes, psychological issues, and repeated institutional failures. Cole's troubled childhood laid the groundwork for his violent behavior. He experienced significant abuse and neglect, which fueled his deep-seated hatred towards women. His first known act of violence occurred in 1946 when he drowned a boy named Dwayne who had bullied him. This incident was initially dismissed as an accident. After a series of minor crimes and stints in mental institutions, Cole's criminal behavior escalated. Despite seeking help for his violent fantasies, he was repeatedly released from care without proper treatment. His first adult murder victim was Essie Louise Buck in 1971. Cole strangled her and continued his killing spree, targeting women who reminded him of his unfaithful mother. Cole's murder spanned over several states, including California, Nevada, Texas, and Oklahoma. His victims were often women he met in bars, and his crimes included strangulation, necrophilia, and cannibalism. Cole's ability to evade capture was aided by law enforcement's failures to properly investigate and connect his crimes. Cole was eventually arrested in Dallas in 1980 after a string of murders. He confessed to killing multiple women and was convicted of 3 murders in Texas, receiving a life sentence. In 1984, after waiving extradition, he was convicted of 2 more murders in Nevada and sentenced to death. Cole was executed by lethal injection on December 6, 1985 in Nevada. He did not appeal his death sentence, expressing a desire to die due to the mess he had made of his life. His case highlights significant issues in the criminal justice and mental health system during his time. Thank you for joining us as we explored these unsettling cases. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. We appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more in-depth stories of some of the most notorious criminals in history. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.